Disclaimer, I wrote this video a long time ago, so some of the information might be a little outdated. What's up guys, James here and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today's video is the long-awaited fourth installment in my series, The Untold Lore of Roblox. Trust me when I tell you that there is a lot of information to unpack in this video, especially since episode 1 in this series came out like 3 years ago at this point. Now, since it has been a while since the last episode came out, I'm just going to quickly recap what I talked about earlier in the series. So episode 1 was kind of just a fairly tame one where I just talked about Roblox lore in general and dipped my feet into it by going into the officially written Chronicles of Roblox, a story showing us how Robloxia was created. In the second episode, I talked more about Robloxia itself, the universe that Roblox takes place in. I discussed the history of it in more detail, talked about what it is, and brought up theories like material evolution. In the third episode, I looked at some fan theories from episodes 1 and 2, talked more about topics like Lua and the gods of Robloxia, and brought on Sumi to discuss her Web of Worlds theory. Today's video is going to be split up. In the latter half, I'll be introducing the factions of Robloxia, but right now, I'd like to talk about a Reddit post I made back in May of 2022, asking the community what their thoughts were on Roblox lore. Although most people understandably didn't even know what it was, some of the comments from that thread are actually pretty interesting. In particular, I found user Lime Satellite's comments to be very intriguing. They brought up a few points relating to Roblox lore that I really hadn't thought of before or even known about. I don't have definitive proof or links to back up all of these points, but the list is still pretty interesting. The first is that there are specific notable characters within Roblox lore, and this is pretty obvious just looking at things. Some of the canon characters can be seen in the catalog and in other Roblox media like toys and games. These include the Rubber Duck, the Evil Duck, Mr. Tentacles, basically any of the packages or bundles in the item shops, and I'd even go as far as saying characters like John Doe, Jane Doe, 1x1x1x1, Shedletsky, and others should all be considered canon. Pretty much any character officially made by Roblox for Roblox. Next, it appears as though SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, is canon within the Roblox universe. There was a protest sign against it put out on the catalog in 2012, and the sign directly mentions Robloxians as well. Now, obviously within Robloxia, it probably wouldn't be a bill from the United States Congress, but would be from some other government within the Roblox universe, which is really interesting to think about. It also seems as though Robloxians aren't supposed to be able to breathe in space, and like I've discussed in episode 2, concepts like solar systems and outer space definitely exist within Robloxia in some form, unlike in games like Minecraft where the universe is just a flat plane. In the really old Roblox game Telemon's Mission to the Moon, you get to go to a Robloxian moon using an astronaut helmet to breathe in space. If you take off the helmet, your head explodes, giving us some more insight into the properties of the Roblox universe, and potentially even confirming things like real-world air pressure and atmospheres existing in-game. Finally, we have Banland. This doesn't seem to definitively be canon, as it's mostly a community-made thing, but the concept is super interesting and I'll probably dwell on it more in its own video. It's basically a place within the Roblox universe similar to Hell, and it seems like this is where terminated accounts end up. It's not really canon for sure, but from what I've heard, it might have been mentioned by Roblox themselves before. And if Roblox themselves has mentioned it before, then it would be considered canon. So I'll try to find any more information for it in the future. It's pretty much the Roblox equivalent of Hell. Next up, another commenter by the name of Stuffy Bun linked a couple of old Roblox videos which give some newfound insight into Roblox lore. Both videos come from Shedletsky himself. The first, titled Plastic Men and Iron Blades, is simply some low-quality gameplay of sword fights on the heights. The interesting part about it is the title, which seems to confirm some of my earlier speculation that a large amount of Robloxians are made out of plastic. The next video, titled Robloxian Eye View of the Future Site of Roblox Rally 2011, is a tour of the warehouse where the 2011 Roblox Rally would be held at, from the point of view of a Robloxian. This video is extremely interesting because it shows that even though Robloxians may be large in their world, they're tiny in ours and are more or less the size of actual Roblox toys. This gives more credence to a lot of Roblox theories, like the theory that Roblox is a toy box. Now, even though that was all interesting information that added on to the last 3 episodes of the series, I know why you all really clicked on this video. In Roblox, there are a number of official factions that are a part of the game's lore. Unlike Robloxia's natural history, which is extremely ambiguous, these factions have in-depth documents of lore with large communities to accompany the groups. I might make more in-depth videos covering factions individually, but for now I'll just be talking about the different groups in a general sense. The main lore groups in Roblox are war groups and are known as the Roblox factions or kingdoms. Most of them consist of knights or wizards, but there are some others too. In my opinion, most Roblox groups would be considered canon, but for now I'm just sticking to the set-in-stone official ones that exist within the storyline or the lore of the game. The different kingdoms of Roblox seem to occupy different areas of it, and each have their own significant populations, cities, territories, cultures, customs, as well as political and military power. Most of the information discussed about these groups in this video comes from their official descriptions and the descriptions of different related items in the catalog. The official Robloxian factions are as follows. Emerald Knights of the Seventh Sanctum. The Emerald Knights of the Seventh Sanctum are a group of medieval knights of Robloxia that have built their kingdom around the gemstone Emerald. Emerald appears to have its own supernatural properties in the world of Roblox, as proven by the staff that the knights use, where it's stated that the staff uses the magical power of Emerald to immobilize and shock opponents. In the group's description, the knights claim it's their duty to stabilize Robloxia, and that they don't care about what's right or wrong, but rather that everything is stable. This leads me to believe that they aren't really good guys or bad guys, but are a neutral, balancing presence in the world of Roblox, helping to ensure that no other clans overreach their power. They uphold this balance with unholy power and an undead nature. It's interesting how they describe their power as unholy and undead. If holiness is a real force in Roblox, like the description makes it out to be, then that probably means some sort of god or higher power also exists, along with the potential of an anti-god. Most members of the Emerald Knights of the Seventh Sanctum are solely listed as Awoken, Robloxians who have been called forth by the Bava to serve the Seventh Sanctum. The Awoken can then go through a series of trials, known as the Trials of the Sanctum, to become Emerald Squires, aspiring knights ready to begin their training. From there, they can move through the ranks, becoming an Emerald Knight, dedicated soldiers who excel in battle, and then an Emerald Guardian, commanders of the knights who have mastered balance. Above this ranking is the Unholy Council, a council of the greatest Emerald Knights who look over the faction and maintain its goal of balancing Robloxia. The highest ranking member of the Emerald Knights is the Bava, the ruler of the Seventh Sanctum and the highest master of balance. Balance appears to be a supernatural force that is held by the Emerald Knights that can be learned and mastered. The Bava is the greatest master of balance and probably has at least some inherent supernatural power. Angel Atheist was the original founder and Bava of the clan, but that rank has now been passed on to Roblox user only 20 characters. The existence of Emerald Knight headphones shows that they have at least some modern technological ability. If I had to guess, I think that the Emerald Knights probably willfully choose not to use much modern technology, opting for more traditional gear instead. The Emerald Oracle is another interesting item held by the Knights. According to its description in the catalog, those who wear it can peer through time to get a glimpse of the future. I'm willing to bet it uses this same form of balance that's already been brought up, and maybe this balance is also what powers the emeralds that the knights use. There's also an emerald spellbook used by the knights that contains a spell which can stabilize the warring clan of Roblox. Though I'm not sure how often it's used, this seems to be one of the ways that the knights maintain balance in Robloxia. Wizards of the Astral Isles. Next up, we have another one of the mid-sized groups, the Wizards of the Astral Isles. Unlike the Emerald Knights, which inhabit a sacred area known as the Seventh Sanctum, the Wizards inhabit a series of presumably floating islands known as the Astral Isles. The group is a large alliance made up of potentially several groups of wizards. The wizards are mostly worried about facing off their enemies, while occasionally providing welfare to other people of Robloxia and working to defend the universe's magic. Unlike in the Emerald Knights, where their leader specifically chooses people to be recruited, those hoping to become a wizard need to first apply themselves. Accepted applicants start off as apprentices, unskillful and new to the art of wizardry. Apprentices can go on to become students of wizardry, a grueling task that leads only the strongest wizards to become students, who are more or less just the junior wizards. Top students eventually become student elites, and eventually student elites can become scholars or wizards themselves. Wizards are skilled in the art of wizardry and help to complete tasks for the Alliance, while scholars are specialized in different areas of Robloxian magic and teach it to new generations of wizards, themselves eventually becoming scholar elites. The most skillful and trained wizards can eventually become master wizards. Some members of the group also become archivists, studying the history of magic and wizardry and preserving the ancient traditions and customs for generations to come. The current highest ranking wizard within the clan is Solar Crane, taking over the mighty Hot Thought's place after he fell in battle all those years before. The wizards also have a Redcliff liaison who works to maintain a relationship between them and the Knights of Redcliff. A notable character mentioned among the ranks of the wizards is Hot Thoth, a mighty wizard who had fallen in battle, passing on his role as leader of the Wizards of the Astral Isles. What I find interesting about the description for the Wizards of the Astral Isles is that it's mentioned that the current year in Robloxia is 1543 IR. Now, as for what IR stands, I'm not sure, nor do I know why there's only been 1,543 years. Was year 0 the creation date of Robloxia, or was it simply the marking of an important event like in our timeline? I currently don't know. Interestingly, there's a specific egg associated with the clan called the Wizard of Astral Isles egg. I find this really interesting as eggs and egg hunts in Roblox are super intertwined with the game's lore, but up until this point, I was under the belief that the egg hunts probably exist within their own canon timeline. If everything is just happening in the same time and universe, it might seriously change my perspective on Roblox lore. I'll talk more about the egg hunts and eggs in a future video. Back to the wizards though, looking at some of the items, I've noticed that again there's a pair of wizard headphones. I think this just further confirms my notion that although the major factions are largely based off of the traditional magic of Robloxia, they still have at least some access to more modern technology and gadgets. Most of the clan items are just for aesthetic purposes, but there are some interesting magical items, like the Astral Isle Pendant, which contains powerful magic, and Windsor the Blue's Cape, which states that patience and fortitude is required to master the magics of space and time. There's also the Astral Isle Wings of Infinite Height, which let their user fly and are said to have come out of the Astral Basket from the Lofty Isles on March 31st, 2015. I'm assuming the Lofty Isles are a specific area of the Astral Isles. Although this is a bit of a minor detail, it's interesting how some Roblox lore descriptions use an imaginary date, while others use real-world dates. I wonder if this means anything aside from just continuity issues, but let's be honest, it probably doesn't. The Astral Cloak of Transportation lets users teleport and states that the Wizards of the Astral Isles hold all magical secrets. So far, it seems like the Emerald Knights of the Seventh Sanctum have mastered the power known as Balance, while the Wizards of the Astral Isles have mastered a power known as Magic. Interestingly, this lets me know that these are probably two separate things that both groups have independently gained control over. In terms of animals in the world of Roblox, it looks like the Wizards of the Astral Isles have teamed up with frogs, infected rats, and most notably a Pegasus as shown in one catalog item. The Pegasus is said to soar above Robloxia and acts as a form of transportation along with the Astral Wings and the Cloak of Teleportation. Knights of Redcliff. The Knights of Redcliff are another one of the good guy lore groups and are one of the more prevailing clans along with the Korblox and Overseers, which I'll get to later. The group has over 10,000 more members than the previous ones I've mentioned. According to the group's page, the Knights of Redcliff were born to defend Robloxia from all that is mortal evil. Their territory encompasses the center of the Robloxian world, whatever that means, and they claim to defend and protect the weak from the ruthless Korbloxian invasion. This line really struck my attention as it wasn't until reading that I really took a good look at the name Korbloxian. For the most part, I talk about Roblox's universe as Robloxia, with its inhabitants as Robloxians, but what are Korbloxians then? Are they biologically separate from other Robloxians? Does this mean they're from an area called Korblox? Maybe it's even a parallel dimension of sorts. Or is this simply a name given to them that doesn't have much meaning behind it? I'll talk more about the Korblox later in this episode, but for now I'll focus on the Knights of Redcliff. The Knights of Redcliff were founded by the mighty Knight Zargus in 1324 IR, when he and his knights finally managed to exile the barbarian King Canavus and his men out of Robloxia. Now the knights are led by Sorcis, a descendant of Knight Zargus, and it's once again mentioned that the current date is 1543 IR. It's little things like this that leave me with more questions than answers, but I can still pull out some info. Assuming that one IR is comparable to one real-world year, These two dates let us establish at least a little bit of a grander timeline that I'll definitely try and add to over time. So the current year in Robloxia is 1543 IR, and the Knights of Redcliff have been around since 1324. This means that within the timeline of the lore groups, the Knights of Redcliff have only been around for 219 years. Not that long in the grand scheme of things. It's also said that the barbarian of King Canavus and his men were exiled out of Robloxia. I'm not sure if this just means they were killed or if they were sent outside of Robloxia somehow, but I don't actually think it means any of these things. I think the Robloxians here might just be living with a mindset similar to the mindset that us humans had in the past. The world has slowly expanded over time, not literally but figuratively. During medieval times, humans didn't inhabit or even know about a good portion of the entire world. It wasn't until the invention of the telescope that we were able to discover planets not observable with our own eye, and it wasn't even until 1820 that Antarctica was discovered, an entire continent left unknown for the majority of human history. The geocentric model was a belief of the past that posited that the Earth was the center of the universe, but now we know that's just not true. Some people even used to think if you sailed far enough, you would just fall off the edge of the earth. I think the same thing might be happening here. What the Knights of Redcliff called Robloxia in 1324 was only what they knew of so far. So when they banished King Canavus and his men, they probably just sent them off to go far away, but in their eyes, they were leaving their observable world. Looking on the group page, I noticed that there's actually a guide to the Knights of Redcliff. This would probably give me a lot more information on the group, but unfortunately it's from an old forum post which no longer exists. That doesn't matter, as luckily we have the Wayback Machine, which just so happens to have this post archived. The forum post is from 2012, so it's a bit dated, but really Roblox lore in general is dated. The post doesn't have a whole lot of relevant information, but I could still pull some things out of it. First off, it goes over the ranks, which I talk about for every group. Before becoming a knight, all members start off as apprentices, peasants who are only aspiring to be knights one day. From there, you could become a base level knight or archer, the meat and potatoes of the Knights of Redcliff. Skilled knights or archers can become elite archers, drac knights, enchanted knights, master rangers, or knights of the Redcliff order. Other members include counselors, allied advisors appointed by sources, legion commanders, elite knights that lead the legions, and elite commanders, the direct disciples of the legendary supreme commander. Sources himself holds the rank of Windwalker. He is the Eye of the Storm and the descendant of the mighty knight Zargus. The forum page also shows a list of allies and enemies. The Knights of Redcliff are allied with the Knights of the Splintered Skies, as well as surviving wizards. They have neutral relations with the Emerald Knights and Samurais, and are at war with the Dark Age Ninjas. They were also formerly at war with the Korbloxian Empire. The Knights of Redcliff follow a feudalist system, with a chain of hierarchy determining how power flows throughout the group. Much to my dismay, recently the Knights of Redcliff went on an indefinite hiatus for the foreseeable future, leaving the future of the group uncertain. They've moved over to a new group now known as the Knights of the Rising Phoenix. Because I'm just talking about the classical Roblox lore groups in this video, I won't cover that group here, but I may in the future. Roblox actually made new Redcliff packages with the release of Arthro a few years back, so it's good to see that the official developers haven't actually given up on them, although they might have on Roblox lore in general. Nicoticas. The Nicoticas are probably one of the most least well-known Roblox lore groups, with only just over 1,000 members. The group's viability as an official lore group seems to be based on only a few catalog items. One of those is the Nicoticas phaser. The description for the phaser reads that the Nicoticas will ask you to move politely, but will then pull out their phasers, which isn't a good thing. Another item in the catalog that mentions the Nicoticas is the Nicoticas Incarnate, which shows what one of them actually looks like. The Nicoticas appear to be some sort of extraterrestrial Robloxian Martian. The Incarnate's description claims that a Nicoticas is an intergalactic friend that shoots fireballs at its enemies. On the group page, it's said that the Nicoticas come from the darkest corners of the galaxy. Much of their homeland has been destroyed through corrupted technology, and so now they travel the galaxy claiming land as their own. Even though they may have once been an intergalactic friend, their goal now is to eliminate anyone and everyone in their way. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of other information available regarding this group online. I did check out their games though, which are pretty interesting. The Convocation of Korblox is apparently a meeting place for the group located deep in one of Robloxia's moons. There was at one time an Emperor Korblox with a grand empire that the group now eternally serves. The Nicoticas do seem to be an antagonist in Roblox, even if they weren't in the past. They're at war with the Orinthians, another spacefaring group I'll talk about next. Orinthians. The Orinthians are an elite group of space marines descended from the Knights of Redcliff. They're a very niche lore group that are enemies with the Nicoticas. Their goal is to defend the universe from the Nicoticas, aliens of a sinister nature. This group page has another forum post on it with more information. I couldn't find a usable version of it on the Wayback Machine, but luckily there is actually a Roblox forum archive, and I'm super thankful to the people who made it. In order from lowest to highest, the ranking of the Orinthians is Ensign, Scout, Cadet, Sentry, Foot Soldier, Sentinel, Centurion, Captain, Commander, the Vice Admiral who's second in command, and the Fleet Admiral at the helm of the faction. Unfortunately, just like the Knights of Redcliff, it seems they've abandoned their original group and have migrated to one called Astrobia recently, although even that one isn't really as active. Korblox's Empire. Now let's talk about a Roblox group that can be seen as one of the game's major antagonists, Korblox's Empire. The name itself is foreboding, with a striking K and the word Empire right in the title, instilling fear in those who read it. Even their motto is join today or die tomorrow. That being said, according to the group page, they are currently at a peaceful war status with no active wars, although I do know that the Knights of Redcliff were probably their biggest enemy in the past. They're also allied with the Dark Age ninjas, who are at war with the Redcliffs. Unlike all of the other groups so far, there's no actual lore description in the group's description, but luckily there's again another forum post that I could just pull some info out of. The official Roblox wiki also has some more information on the group. The wiki led me to a game called Iceheart Social Area. The game is very bare bones, but it has a very detailed lore book in it, which I'll read over in entirety here. It's kinda long, but it's very interesting and informative, so stay with me here. First off, we were wandering human warriors in a frozen tundra. We were pressed on food and hunted the animals that we found. Soon we ran out of resources and started to starve. We adapted and started to eat rock and crystal. This then started to become part of us and eventually covered the entire body. This process is known as the transformation. Again, our resources started to dwindle. Stone, metal, and crystal became building materials, as well as our main food source. Soon enough, travelers of the Redcliff faction wandered into our frozen tundra. When they saw us, they thought of us as monsters and attacked. We killed them off and grew angry with this Redcliff. In retaliation, we raided one of their cities. We took it easily and discovered many new things, such as magic. Using unholy magic, the wisest of us siphoned the slain villagers back to undeath. They became a major part of our workforce and soldiers. Having attacked the city, and unaware of the undiscovered provokers, they attacked full force in 1324 IR. We were thought to be extinct, but some wise men still remained. They siphoned back as many as they could and rebuilt. After a year or two, we attacked 3 more townships in rapid succession. This time, we had scouts deployed and learned of the planned attack. The Redcliff attacked a fortification of ours and brought their ally, the Knights of the Splintered Sky, with them. But knowing of the attack, we were prepared. We slaughtered them but took a heavy toll. We had gained many more wizards and mages in that time and rose all of the dead to fight and build for us. We then proceeded to raid more townships, gathering more soldiers, resources, and knowledge on the way. Then, they were prepared for the next attack. We attacked a major Redcliff fortification and waged an epic battle, but we pulled through, and although we had many casualties, we claimed the fort. We rebuilt the fort in our image and named it Fort Frost. After so long, we finally came to the Redcliff stronghold, fortified with many soldiers, splintered skies, and Redcliff. We mustered our entire force and attacked. We lost almost all our men, but destroyed major parts of the stronghold. However, Redcliff forces managed to drive us back. The year is now 1543 IR. Our forces are growing by the second, the most elite warriors to scour Robloxia. Redcliff is ready. We are on the brink of war. Alright guys, so that was pretty lengthy, but I hope it shed some new light on the history of the Korblox Empire and their relationship with the Knights of Redcliff. It looks like they started off as normal Robloxians, but after running out of food, they began to eat ice, rocks, and crystals, which gave them their distinct appearance. If the Korblox's book is to be believed, then it was actually the Knights of Redcliff that started the war by traveling into the Korblox's territory, slaughtering and antagonizing them. Once the Korblox retaliated and invaded the Knights of Redcliff themselves, they were able to learn magic. After this point, it seems as though the amount of actual humans making up the Korblox dwindled, while the amount of undead Korbloxians increased. Every time the Korblox kills an opponent, they're able to resurrect them as undead to join their forces. The same happens when a Korblox themselves dies, so it seems as though naturally the amount of undead in comparison to humans has grown over time. What I find interesting as well is the date in which the Redcliff attacked the Korblox is the same year that the Redcliff formed. Aside from the lore book, the wiki also has some more information on the Korblox, which probably comes from the forum post that I'm unable to access. The Korblox are apparently organized into 13 tribes, with one secret tribe. They live in an area of Robloxia called the Frozen Wastes, which they're able to survive in due to their physical appearance and undead nature, but which is inhospitable and harsh to any other Robloxians. They follow a hierarchy similar to the Redcliff, with an Archlord leading, generals below them, Scroge Lords and Mage Kings below them, and finally the 13 Death Speakers. And then there's the huge amount of undead workers and soldiers. When it comes to the catalog, there are a huge amount of Korblox related items in the Korblox series. There are a lot of direct members of the groups themselves as packages, and items like the Korblox Death Speaker have become very popular over the years. The Korblox Lord of Death appears as a package, and is said to be the member that raises the undead. The Azurewrath King, the son of Korblox, is probably the result of a couple with one high-ranking Azurewrath member and one high-ranking Korbloxian. The Korblox Elder is said to be the only one that can actually teach magic, and the disenchanted Korblox Squire provides a nice break from the usual warfare of the Korblox. In terms of hats and accessories, the Korblox collar is apparently made up of magical crystals. These probably give the Korblox lots of enhanced magical power. The cursed pendant is worn by some Korbloxians and is said to be cursed by the blackest magic, providing lots of unholy energy to those that wear it. Yudzal is a more recent Korblox package, but its description has some interesting lore in it. Yudzal is called the All-Father of Korblox. He was the true master of the undead until the 12 Death Speakers plotted his assassination. He was then resurrected as an abominable creature of war under the control of the Death Speakers. Despite his appearance, I believe that Yudzal once was a normal Robloxian, seeing how he was one of the first Korbloxians, but years of eating ice and the magical crystals transformed his appearance into what it is today. As shown by a gear, it also appears that the Korblox have summoned Korblox ice dragons and domesticated them. They use these dragons for transportation. They also have Korblox flying oblivion horns, which when played, summon skeletal birds to attack opponents for them. These birds may have originally once been animals, but eventually could have gone through the same process that the Korbloxians did. Or they could be killed animals that were raised from the dead. Crimsonwrath and Azurewrath. The Crimsonwrath and Azurewrath don't have actual lore groups behind them, but are races of Robloxians known exclusively through items in the catalog. The Crimsonwrath attempt to use the powers of fire and darkness to conquer the world, while the Azurewrath use the powers of ice and darkness. They are both polar opposites to one another and are generally antagonists in Roblox. Notable members of the Crimsonwrath include the Crimson Lad Lord of the Magma, Duke of Danger, Lord of Entropy, and Champion of Crimsonwrath. Notable members of the Azurewrath include the Azurewrath Lord of the Void, Lord of the Frost, Lord of Destruction, Duke of Demons, Champion of Azurewrath, and of course the son of Korblox, the Azurewrath King. It appears as though members of both races are actually minor gods within Roblox, being lords over certain aspects of the universe. Knights of the Splintered Skies. The Knights of the Splintered Skies are another faction from the skies of Robloxia, similar to the Wizards of the Astral Isles. Their bases are located in the high, frigid airs above Mount Zargistan. Their goal is to defend Robloxia from those who seek to turn its peace into chaos. 1 millennium ago, blessed with the powers of Lumen, the great knight Dukrin discovered the power of flight and founded the Knight's great city of Lossendor in the sky. This makes the Knights of the Splintered Skies one of the oldest factions in Robloxia, much older than the Redcliff, Orinthians, or even the Korblox are. Some of the descriptions of these groups also lead me to believe that there are ancient Robloxian factions that simply don't exist anymore. I wonder if there are some past huge Robloxian empires that have fallen, similar to the Roman Empire of our world. Since the creation of the city of Lossendor, the goal of the Knights of the Splintered Skies has been to defend the honor and peace of Robloxia. Close allies with the Knights of Redcliff, they have strong tensions with the Korblox and work to push against the Korbloxian advance. Unlike with some of the other groups, there is a large array of games published under the Knights of the Splintered Skies that showcase different areas of their territory, though some are just for group purposes. Being able to visit these areas yourself really gives you a good idea of the culture and living styles of the Knights of the Splintered Skies. The group has swapped owners over the years a couple of times. Sources, the creator of the Knights of Redcliff, was also the creator of the Knights of the Splintered Skies. Newtrat later became the owner, and now Stickmaster Luke runs the group. There's actually a bit of a story there. When Newtrat was given the group, he was an intern at Roblox. But on January 3rd, 2012, the group entered into a severely inactive period as Newtrat stopped interning at Roblox. It wasn't until September 12th of that year that the group was given over to Stickmaster Luke so that it could remain active. The leader of the faction is known as the Aether Overseer. and is the legendary 7th Knight of the Council. Other very high-ranking members come from the High Council and are directly chosen by the Aether Overseer themselves. The group also has some Farlanders appointed to help it, known as Foreign Dignitaries, which are probably allied members of other groups. As for the physiology of the Knights, it appears as though unlike most other Robloxians, some of the Knights have wings that allow them to travel the skies. One gear, the Hydrian Elixir, is responsible for these wings. Its description leads, over the centuries, many have wondered how the Knights descended upon the realm in times of peril. Only but a few know the true source of the Knight's power. The Hydrian Elixir grants the Knights the ability to grow wings and fly for a short period of time. Not only does the Elixir give them the ability of flight, but also increases their strength twofold, and the wings attack anyone that get near them. This implies that the wings are only temporary and disappear when the effects of the Elixir run dry. A ballista is an ancient missile weapon that launches javelins or heavy balls at foes. The Knights of the Splintered Skies have their own version of a ballista, and its description gives some insight into their combat techniques. Reading, while their capability to melee combat their opponents is only rivaled by the Redcliff Knights, the Splintered Sky Knights also make use of some heavy artillery. The Knights even have a wand that can control lightning. Overseers. The Overseers are a Robloxian race mentioned throughout the catalog items and shown through a vast array of items in it. Unlike with most of the groups up to this point, there isn't an official group page for the Overseers, although they are clearly significant within the story of Robloxia, and a large amount of Roblox players would definitely recognize the Overseer items in the catalog. Luckily, the items we do have, as part of the Overseer series, do give strong chunks of lore relating to the faction. The leader of the Overseers is known as the Overseer Overlord. You can buy the Overlord's crown, and its description leads the omnipotent eye that controls every Overseer, rich with terrible power. This makes me think that the crown worn by the Overseer Overlord has strong magical properties that allow its wearer to control all of the Overseers. The Overseer's eyes say you must kill him to become him. So perhaps leadership over the Overseers is changed by killing the leader in order to become him yourself. There are also a lot of war-related accessories and gears like there are with the other clans. The Overseer Chosen, a helmet, gives us a lot of insight into the physical environment that the Overseers inhabit. It reads, "Life in the Overseer lands is not lived, but rather forged. The dark, treacherous land has long since beat weakness out of the Overseers, and the merely strong have been called over millennia of constant conflict. Individuals who seek to lead the Overseer armies must prove their prowess by making a deep journey under the swampland and return to present a living emerald to the clan Deathspeaker. Many do not return, but those who do are marked as chosen. So it seems like the Overseers live in an extremely hostile swampland area. If the folklore is to be believed, there could be some sort of underworld or cave system which is the origin of the Robloxian emeralds. It's interesting how emeralds are also brought up within the lore of the Overseers, just as they were with the Emerald Knights of the 7th Sanctum. Both use emeralds, which we now know are magical by nature in Roblox, and the aesthetic of both groups centers around the color green. The Overseers also have their own members known as Chosen, while the Emerald Knights have their own members known as Awoken. This form of membership appears to be unique to both of these groups. I think that the two races might actually be distantly related, as both are centered around emeralds. Perhaps the Overseers are a branch of Emerald Knights that threw away the force of balance and shifted over to the dark side to be corrupted. It's said that the Overseers thrive on chaos, and they are pretty much the biggest antagonists within the main lore of Roblox and its factions. There are also Overseer Spiders, which have a similar physical appearance to the Overseers themselves. Weirdly enough, however, a tweet by former Roblox worker Pterosaurus calls the Overseers of the Korblox Empire. If they're Korbloxians themselves, then this would probably disprove my theory that they're related to the Emerald Knights. But it's also possible that they may just work with the Korblox, as both have common enemies. It appears as though the Overseers are all seeing in a literal sense, with great eyesight, but they also might be omniscient. They are definitely inherently supernatural, and I wouldn't doubt if they are omniscient, literally being able to see anything in Robloxia, possibly through time as well. The description of the Overseer collar reads, "Those eyes see everything. They can't stop seeing things even if they wanted to." And the description of the Overseer headphone reads, "Now the Overseers can overhear things too," which almost entirely confirms that they could literally see anything, with the headphones also allowing them to hear anything, or at least just having enhanced senses in general. This is confirmed with the Overseer Wizard, which says, "His hat's many eyes see across space and time." The eye of the Overseer Mage Staff is also said to see the past, present, and future. That being said, the description of the masked hood of the Overseer says, when the Overseers need to find someone, they send the Overseeker. So maybe not all of the Overseers actually are omniscient, or perhaps some are better at harnessing their powers than others. Dark Age Ninjas. Finally, we come to the last major official lore group I could find, the Dark Age Ninjas. Just like the Overseers, there is no official group page for the Dark Age Ninjas, as the lore group was undeveloped, but there's still information about the faction in the catalog, and there's an unofficial group page for them, which is always helpful. There's a pretty detailed lore summary in the group description for the Dark Age Ninjas. It might not be 100% canon, but I'll still talk about it, as there's really not much other official evidence about the group. Then again, it actually could be official and just from an old blog post or something. So it all started in 1324 IR, which coincidentally enough is the third time that exact year has popped up in this video. A beginner ninja named Ryu Hoshiko came across a purple smoking meteor. Upon investigating it, he fell unconscious, and when he came back to his senses, he felt different. The strange meteor had given him unknown abilities that changed ninja culture forever. Ryu built up an arsenal of armor and weapons forged out of purple blood for his new apprentices. In 1543 IR, with the fall of the Wizard Tower and the rise of the Korbloxians, the iron grip that the Wizards Alliance has held over Robloxia had considerably weakened. The Dark Age Ninjas saw this as an opportunity to move ahead and emerged from the shadows. After successfully ambushing the highly trained Redcliff Knights, the ninjas are moving towards the south of Robloxia for reasons unknown. A lot of their lore is related to a great Robloxian war that started off with a few wizard towers being raided. This video is getting pretty lengthy, so I'll save specific events in the timeline like that for another video. Aside from the backstory on the unofficial group page, there's a Dark Age Ninja series of items that have some more lore hints in them. The Dark Age Master Package says, "The darkest age is yet to come. He is prepared." And the Dark Age Ninja's combat potion also has a pretty interesting description about ninja combat. It reads, "The Dark Age Ninjas are masters of hand-to-hand combat that none but the fiercest of warriors can handle. Drink this potion to increase your vitality to twofold, and to learn to spin kick, flash kick, and charge kick in the face, decimating anyone who tries to fight you." Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of other straightforward information regarding this group aside from these select few catalog items and the unofficial group page. But with that, I finally covered the classic main war factions in Roblox lore. This video took a while to come out, and it is pretty long, but I do think it was worth it. I just covered a lot of the baseline facts and backstories in this video. A ton of these groups have active communities around them with way more fleshed out lore and backstories, and new lore being made all the time. For the sake of time though, and everybody's attention spans, this video sort of just introduced them. If you think I missed some vital information or made a mistake, tell me in the comments and I'll definitely respond to you. I really appreciate the feedback you guys give me, and if you ever want to further discuss Roblox lore with me, I have a Discord which I'll be linking in the description. I know I don't really say it much, but this video was getting pretty lengthy, so if you stayed with me till the end at this point and you aren't already, a subscribe or a like at least would definitely be appreciated. If you do, thank you so much. Thank you for 2,500 subs, and with all that being said, I'll see you on the next one.